What up? Yo, listen. This is EK coming back at you. As you can see, it's been a minute. I'm gonna try to crank these out once every Friday. Let's see how consistent I can be. I do need to get some more content volume out there in the streets. So let me do my part. I got a question, and I think this question is a very good question. And this is a question for any Trump supporter that has kids. So let's start with this. Now, I know I don't have very many Trump supporters, if any at all, that watch me on these videos. I don't know if I have very many people, period, watching me on these videos. But this is the question, and it's not political, it's parental. So when you use this question, you make sure you preface it with, this is a parenting question, this is not a political question, to stay out of the politics. And you ask them, do you tell and teach your children that it is okay to treat people and to act and to do the things that Trump does? Now, I'm not saying on the adult level. I'm not saying to use the same adult language. But I'm saying is the way he tends to fabricate reality routinely. And that's just a fact. That is not in dispute. I could be his child and he could be my father. It would still be a fact that he tends to fabricate and lie at the drop of a hat. So that's not in dispute if you're a Trump supporter or not. So the question is this. Being a Trump supporter, do you teach and tell your children that the way he behaves, the way he treats people, the things that he does are okay for you to look up to emulate, and to behave like? If the answer is yes, I can at least respect that you're a consistent motherfucker. Now, that doesn't mean that I might not think, wow, this is going to be an interesting product from this parent. But I can at least respect that you're consistent. But if you tell anyone that you don't tell your children it's okay, if you don't accept that behavior from your children, then we got a goddamn problem. Because we basically have exposed that you're full of shit. Because if someone were to turn that around and say to me, well, would you tell your children it's okay to act like Obama? The answer is yeah. It is okay to act like and treat people the way Obama did. Now, you being a Trump supporter with children is the only person that should be asked this question, knowing the question can be reversed. And as my example just stated, if someone reversed it and said, well, would you tell your children it's okay to act like Obama? I would say yes. And then we can go into details if we needed to. But there is a difference between a politician who has lied, which they all have, and a habitual liar. He is a habitual, pathological liar. And we've known people like that in our lives. Some we met in 4th grade, and some we met as adults. But we've met pathological, habitual liars. And he happens to be one of them. Even if you like him, and you support him, and you love him, he's still a habitual liar. That hasn't changed. He's still 6'3". He's still white. Those things are just facts. Doesn't mean you can't love him. Doesn't mean you can't respect him if you want to. But him being a habitual liar is a fact. Like his gender, his sexual preference, his height, his race, those are just facts. Now, that question really is, to me, the pivotal question to ask any Trump supporter that has a kid or children. Because if they can't say, while being honest, that they think it's okay for their children to act that way, and they teach their children to behave that way, if that isn't the case, then you have to start to wonder, well, then what the fuck? You look up and support somebody that you would never like your children to be like, if the answer is no. If the answer is yes, my children should act and behave like him. I teach my children that if you have an argument with a person of color, that you should tell them to go back to their native country. Even if their country is actually America, which makes no sense, but I still tell them to go back to whatever shithole they come from. If that's what you're teaching your children, I can respect that you're consistent. But if you're telling me that you would not tolerate the lies from your children, if you're telling me that you found out in school that your child said something like that, and that you bring your child home and ask them, what the hell are you doing? If that's what you're going to be doing, then how do you support Trump? Now, I'm not pretending we live in a children's world. There's plenty of adult language that I use that my child should not use, period. But behavior? Oh, that's different. My child does not see me acting cruel to people. My child does not see me lying, especially in any kind of repetition and norm. So those things would not be taught nor tolerated from my child, nor would I support somebody who does do that. So if you're a Trump supporter and you're a parent, and this behavior that you witness day in and day out, you yourself would not accept from your children, nor would you teach your children, nor would you ask your children to emulate, then you might be full of shit. I'm not saying you're not a supporter, but I'm just saying you're full of shit. Because you seem to admire behavior that you don't want your children to emulate, imitate. You wouldn't condone it when it comes to your children. That's the question for the day. The question is, anybody who wants to approach and ask a Trump supporter, is this behavior that you see from Trump, the language not being adult language, but the mannerisms, the treatment of others, is this okay with your children? That's really the only question. All right, I was repetitive, but I was trying to prove a point. I was trying to emphasize a point, and I guess get back at me. That's the question of the day, motherfuckers.